Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 80, Betrothal Gift. This bout of sparring lasted a long time, pushing the level of their satisfaction to an even greater heights until it became an insatiable desire for more after they had taken their first taste of the forbidden fruit. They were used to testing each other's limit in the dark. As their love grew increasingly deeper, a mere kiss was no longer enough to fill their hunger. Desire, in its prime, laid bare at its rawest. Such a cloyingly sweet and clingy intimacy was a unique treat distinct to lovers, simply because it was a luxury to be in each other's company at all times. Since there were many eyes and ears inside the imperial prison, a kiss could only be considered a kind of tacit compensation between them. When it was time to end the kiss, Xiao Qiye asked, "Where did you go?" As Shen Zequan eased into his seated position, his thighs ground against the sides of Xiao Qiye's legs. He took his time to slow down his breathing. With a hint of veiled seduction in his half-lidded eyes, he replied, "Counting money." Xiao Qiye squeezed him and said, "Did you get off on counting money?" Shen Zequan let out a husky laugh. "Getting off from being squeezed by you." At Shen Zequan's laugh, Xiao Qiye felt restless. He grabbed Shen Zequan's chin to hold it in place and said, "Keep going with this seduction of yours." Shen Zequan's collarbone was peeking out from his undone collars, and the brutal bite marks from their last time had yet to fade. Paying them no mind, Shen Zequan wetted his bitten lips and said, "I have to discuss something with you." Xiao Qiye held him up and said, "What a coincidence. I have something to discuss with you, too." Shen Zequan was so scalded by Xiao Qiye's gaze that his mouth felt dry and parched. He said, "The military supplies this year have to wait until April before they can be dispatched from Juexi. I need to borrow and use the northeast supply route." Xiao Qiye only had to think for a little to know what he was up to. The military supplies passing through the northeast supply route are personally escorted by the Liege armored cavalry themselves. There are no inspection checkpoints along the way. You can use it to transport the silvers, but it would be subjected to my elder brother's approval. If this money belongs to me, then Xiao Shisui naturally won't agree to it. But if this amount of money is yours, then Xiao Shisui will surely agree. Shen Zequan raised his chin slightly. "It is my betrothal gift. Keep it for me, second young master Xiao. Only this much as a betrothal gift." Xiao Qiye laughed as he freed up one hand to place the meal box on the table. "That's a tough deal." Shen Zequan sniffed and said, "There's grilled fish." With that, he promptly forgot about the betrothal gift and pulled out chopsticks inside the box. It was in this way that Xiao Qiye watched as he ate. In a blink of an eye, the bowl of rice was half gone, and there were only bones left of the fish when it returned to the plate. Xiao Qiye actually did not like eating fish. He had lost his mother when he was young, and his household was not one to spoil its children, unlike how the 8 great clans pampered their offspring. Although he had a nanny and maidservants to wait upon him, he had to feed himself once he had learned how to hold the chopsticks. He was headstrong, and there were plenty of toys he loved to play with, so he did not care to waste his time picking out the fish bones. After getting choked on it for enough times, he hardly ate it anymore. Xiao Qiye looked at him and said, "Does it smell good?" "Apparently, it's made by a chef from He province who is even harder to hire than the imperial chefs from the palace." Shen Zequan picked out the fish bones and fed Xiao Qiye the meat with his chopsticks. Xiao Qiye tasted it and commented, "It's passable." Having eaten his fill, Shen Zequan set down his bowl and chopsticks and said, "What do you want to discuss with me?" Xiao Qiye handed him a handkerchief and said, "The earlier investigation into Xiangyun missed one piece of information. A few years earlier, Shui Ziaozuo bought a batch of people from Xiangyun Villa and kept them in his residence. I'm afraid even Shi Hongxian doesn't know about this matter." As expected, there was a shift in Shen Zequan's expression. He said, "He's not one to keep and raise prostitutes in private. This kind of thing is also almost unheard of in Uhua Pavilion. This action is too abnormal. That's right. It's abnormal. Xiao Qiye leaned back against the back of the chair. I have a hunch that the reason Xiang Yun made a false charge against me is due to that. He bought them a few years back. Shen Zequan gradually furrowed his brows. If it was truly to get Xiang Yun under his control, then this move was planned much too early. Why would Xiang Yun fall under his control because of this? Some pawns, if planted too early, would not necessarily be able to stand up to the test of time. I feel that he's not making such a move just to get leverage against Xiang Yun. Xiao Qiye sorted out his line of thought. Your plotting of the assassination is not something he would be able to predict in advance. So, the subsequent developments afterwards would definitely be hard for him to guard against. Xiao Qiye groped around these messy threads of clues, one at a time. His wolf-like intuition told him that this matter would not be that simple. Improvisation. Shen Zequan suddenly righted Xiao Qiye's face and said, "You are right. The puppet string connected to Xiang Yun was not specifically intended to be used for dealing with you. Xiang Yun's act of perjury was simply an opportunity he seized for his own purpose. The fact that he could simply throw out Xiang Yun to use shows that Xiang Yun is of little significance to him. There is another reason he bought those people, and Xiang Yun is merely a convenient pawn that incidentally came with this reason. What's more, she's a pawn he can't wait to discard. Then, the key to his purchase of those people is, Xiao Qiye was thinking in the same way as him. Among the batch of people he bought." Shen Zequan completed his sentence softly. Both men looked at each other, caught yet again in another puzzle of unknowns. Shangyun Villa was a brothel. What person could there be in a brothel who would be of great importance to Xue Zaiozhuo? He bought over 10 people to obscure the truth and throw everyone off the scent so that no one can tell who exactly it was whom he really wanted to purchase. No doubt Xiang Yun herself doesn't know the answer either. Xiao Qiye said. I have to get Xue Zaiyi to probe into this matter again. His status in the Xue residence would allow him free access to the residence. Xue Zaiozhu might be able to obstruct and deny entry to outsiders, but he definitely can't do that to Xue Zaiyi. This piece of information was indeed important, but Shen Zequan could not figure out the whole scheme at present. He had maneuvered Shi Hongxian into action this time also because he had apprehensions about Xue Zaiozhuo, who similarly had Shi Hongxian in his grasp. Instead of becoming more distinct and decipherable with the passage of time, this person had, on the contrary, became increasingly obscure and unreadable. There's still time. Shen Zequan seemed to be thinking aloud to himself. We will be thrown off kilter the moment we get overly anxious, and that could easily put us in a disadvantageous position. Since he has not made his move, then it means it's not time yet, and this is an opportunity we can exploit. At this time, we are the ones hiding in the dark, while he's out there in the open. We will definitely learn some crucial information if we follow the clues. Shi Hongxian has always been on friendly terms with Xue Zaiozhuo all these years. Even if he's unaware of Xue Zaiozhuo's purchases of those prostitutes, there will still be something he knows that others don't. I'll probe him again later. After saying so much, you still haven't let the second young master in on the details. Xiao Qiye did not let him get off him. How much silver did you swindle from him? Shen Zequan snapped out of his thoughts and pursed his lips slightly. He raised 4 fingers, just like he had done so before. Xiao Qiye immediately grasped those fingertips tight without doubt. Sweet. Worth it? Put it down as your betrothal gift, quick. Shen Zequan said, you should act with a little more reserve instead of jumping at it. 4 million is too little still. Xiao Qiye said, it's too generous. A starting price at 4 million? For someone who can make this much money as you do, this second young master will take whatever price you offer. Amused by him, Shen Zequan said, I told him that Wei Huigo wanted 4 million silvers. There was not the slightest bit of hesitation or reluctance on his part at all, which shows that 4 million is simply a drop in the ocean to the Shi clan. Seeing how happy he was tonight, Xiao Qiye made no further mention of Xue Xiaozuo's matter. He jerked his legs to jolt him and said, only the Shi clan themselves know precisely how much money the Shi clan has. All the others can only see are the salt urns and the copper mines they operate. The extent of their enterprise isn't just limited to the whole empire, but also stretches as far as the foreign lands. The common rich young masters play by hitting the brothels and the gambling dens, but Shi Hongxuan's idea of fun is to run brothels and gambling dens. That broker house on Donglong Street is also his shop, and its internal dealings implicate plenty of key officials in the imperial court, all of whom have fields and businesses at stake in his hands, so they have no choice but to give him face. This time, it's 4 million, but how much will it be the next time? The northeast supply route is only open twice every year. How to hide and spend that much silver, are all issues you have to think through very carefully. No one has ever broken through the Shi clan's money vault before, so putting the money inside is the most secure. No matter how that money is spent now, it'd be hard to escape the eyes of the imperial court. The accounts of your 20,000 strong imperial army already have to be checked and triple-checked in successive order. If this sum of money is not spent and disposed of perfectly, then the second young master would have to be detained in jail to await trial. His curiosity piqued, Xiao Qiye said, spending money, huh? What else is there other than frittering it away by playing and having fun? Or are you preparing to save it for Zongbo? I have nowhere in mind for the money to go to for the time being. Seeing that it was almost time, Shenzhequan fastened his cloak with one hand. The second young master doesn't handle household affairs, so how would you know how valuable the daily staples like tea, rice, oil, and salt are? There will be plenty of uses for the money in the future, so there's no harm in keeping it on hand, even if we can't spend it all for the time being. It's better to be prepared for all contingencies. Both of them were clearly set on defrauding Shi Hongxian by convening in this way to discuss the latter's household finances and assets with such serious expressions. Xiao Qiye still had to return to Kaling River, and after saying a few words, he had to leave. He had rushed over as soon as he had the free time to see Shenzhequan, and now, having fed the latter, he could not afford to sit and linger any longer. As Xiao Qiye turned over to mount his horse, he recalled something else and pulled the reins to say, the inspection will happen in these 2 days. The Grand Secretariat has already proposed a candidate for the Provincial Administration Commissioner for the 6 prefectures of Zongbo. That Zhang Qingshan of Juexi had hurried over to report to the Chu capital on imperial orders. My guess is that it's likely him. I've long heard of his name and reputation. I remembered how he displayed courage and foresight when he handled the aid relief efforts for the 13 cities of Juexi 6 years ago. At this point, Shenzhequan recalled that this person was also on good terms with Xue Xiaozuo and could not help but hesitate. Although his personal friendship with Xue Xiaozuo is pretty good, it does not necessarily mean that he's in Xue Xiaozuo's camp. When he enters the capital, you can meet him to try to get a grasp on him. He isn't a descendant of a noble clan, and he doesn't rely on the noble clans for backing. You can decide for yourself whether or not we can use him when the time comes. Seeing Shenzhequan standing on the steps, Xiao Qiye raised a hand to beckon to him. Shenzhequan was all ears to hear him out. He did not expect Xiao Qiye to simply say nothing and merely caressed a handful of his hair with his palm. Then, with a lift of its hooves, Lang Tao Shuijin broke into a gallop. Ji Qingqing pushed the gates open and Xiao Qiye rode away into the night. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 81, Shadows. The food in the prison was unclean, and so Shi Hongxian suffered an upset stomach. His constitution was already weakened during the epidemic, and now he was in an even more of a misery. He was not in a good state mentally, so he often fell into a lethargic sleep. Furthermore, it was dark all around each time he woke up, so gradually, he lost track of time. Without any window to ventilate the room, This narrow and cramped room smelled foul and stale, coupled with a damp, musty smell. There was no way an ordinary man would be able to endure it. Shi Hongxian was badly ill, yet he was unable to turn and move his body as freely as he would have wanted. All he could do was to lay paralyzed on the straw mat and let his consciousness drift along with the dampness and cold. As usual, the warden moved the flap open and stuffed the rice inside, but he did not hear any movements from Shi Hongxian today. He looked in through the hole, but all he could see was Shi Hongxian's drooping arm. The warden was afraid that Shi Hongxian had died, thus he opened the door and took the lamp to shake it in front of Shi Hongxian's face. Shi Hongxian struggled to open his eyes. With dry lips and a parched mouth, he said, "Sir, please spare me some water." The warden flipped his hand over and poured a bowl of water onto Shi Hongxian's face. Shi Hongxian exerted himself to open his mouth to receive the water, hardly bothering with his dampened collars. He drank the water and pulled himself together to say, "Thank you, thank you." The warden threw the bowl away, then grabbed the oil lamp and made to leave. With an unexpected burst of strength, Shi Hongxian suddenly grabbed a hold of the warden's clothes. He forced out a smile on his chubby face and said, "Friend, tell me. This place is not the imperial prison at all, am I right?" The warden swatted off Shi Hongxian's hand, but Shi Hongxian burst out laughing in a hoarse voice instead, gasping violently as he lay on the straw mat. He pulled at the front of his soaked clothes and moved his eye to stare at the pitch-dark roof. He said, "This place isn't the prison. I should have thought of it a long time ago. It has already been a few days. Even if Kong Qiu doesn't interrogate me, there should be officials from the Ministry of Justice coming over to make their rounds for a check. But it's too quiet. It's too quiet here," Shi Hongxian said, then he swiftly fixed his eyes on the warden in a stare. "I've done some calculations. You come to deliver food every day at precisely the same time, and you even push and put the tray into exactly the same position. Friend, the normal warden isn't this rigid. It has already been a few days, and nobody came to exchange shifts with you in guarding the prison door. You wouldn't even accept my money, and even these sleeves of yours are so clean and tidy without so much as a speck of grease and dust. You are well built and tall, discreet and reticent. You are a Jin Yue, right?" The warden's face was expressionless as he carried the oil lamp and walked away to close the door. Shi Hongxian listened to the sound of metal chains winding around it, then he pounded his fists hard on the straw mat under him. "Shenzhequan! Shenzhequan!" Shi Hongxian pounded until his knuckles reddened. He abruptly let loose a shout at the top of his voice, "Plotting against me! To think you'd scheme against me! You! Tell him! Tell him to come!" There was no response from the darkness. Shi Hongxian dug his fingers into the straw mat. His consciousness was in a muddle as he spat hatefully, "He wants money, doesn't he? Call him over. As long as he let me out. As long as he let me out." He forcefully swallowed his saliva, then suddenly pulled at his hair and gasped, "I'll give him money. I can't fucking stand this anymore." The warden sat down outside with the oil lamp next to him and popped the broad beans into his mouth to down with his wine. With the metal door behind him blocking off Shi Hongxian, all that could be heard from within was the sound of faint sobs and whimpers, much like the wind in the dead of the night. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Shi Hongxian's eyes had turned cloudy. He did not dare to sleep again out of fear that he would not wake up if he fell asleep. By the time Shenzhequan came again, he had already calmed down. Shenzhequan remained on his feet as he sized up Shi Hongxian. Shi Hongxian once had a narrow escape from the jaws of death when he headed out to the seas. Ever since he fought his way back from certain death, he had never cut such a sorry sight again. He was different from the other descendants of the noble clans. He was not afraid of being caught in desperate situations, nor was he afraid of looking wretched. He let Shenzhequan look as he strained his dry and hoarse throat to let out an unwarranted laugh for a moment before he said, "Lanzo, you have guts?" 4 million. I nearly met my end being fleeced by you. This hadn't been an easy place to find. It mustn't be too conspicuous and it can't be too far away. Shenzhequan let out a soft sigh. I sure wasn't expecting you to be this meticulous and discerning in your observations. Shi Hongxian shook his arm and said, men die for money, while birds die for food. Brother, I'm more than willing to give you this sum of money. But you can't simply want my life for just this bit of money. His tone was a little weak and unsteady, but hunger and illness were not able to deprive him of his ability to adapt to his circumstances. He continued, Lanzo. I could have still pretended to be in the dark. I'm the only one who knows where the Shi clan's keys are. I could have run around in circles with you and extracted myself out of here through trickery. But see, I didn't do so. I still hold this bit of brotherhood to heart. Lanzo. We joined forces to kill Shi Guan and Ji Lei. You are now the target of envy in the Jinyi way. If you screw me to death now, you will lose the Shi clan's support. The more you climb your way up in the Jinyi way, the narrower the path you can navigate. You already know what it feels like to be stuck in a situation so difficult that you can hardly move a step forward, don't you? Which of those old men with hereditary positions in noble clans will be willing to submit to you? You are an ambitious one. Isn't it also on my account that Han Cheng could tolerate you? If you kill me, you will become the target of all. Shenzhequan squatted down, holding a handkerchief between his fingers as he looked at Shi Hongxian and sought out his advice with a serious expression. Then, in your opinion, what should I do? Shi Hongxian had seen this expression of Shenzhequan countless times. He knew that there was no doubt that Shenzhequan's intent to kill had been ignited. So, he dripped with cold sweat as he traded gazes with Shenzhequan for a moment before he replied, we haven't reached the point where we had fallen out with one another. Shenzhequan, I lost this time, I concede. It's not a disgrace at all to suffer a business defeat. There's no need for me to create a scene and fall out with you over this bit of trivial matter. I fear you. This is the truth. But it's also precisely because of this fear that I want to continue to work with you. Think about it. If you kill me, you will only have 4 million. But if you have me in your grasp, then you'll have the Shi clan's mountains of gold and silver. I concede defeat. So why get your hands stained with this bit of blood? We still have all the days ahead of us to lord it over the Chu capital. That's a fair point. Shenzhequan said. But it's a tad too easy to dismiss me with just the words concede defeat, isn't it? I heard that the second young master has 68 keys. So how about we split them by 40 and 28? It would so set my mind at ease. Shi Hongxian slowly propped himself up. The expression in his eyes as he looked at Shenzhequan was ferocious as he said, I can give you the keys. But once you take the keys, you can't ask for Qi Huilian again. How about it? Are you willing? Shenzhequan slowly raised his fingers before putting it down again as if he was bored stiff. He said, you think Qi Huilian is worth this much? Naturally, I want the keys. Since he's worth nothing, then it's pointless to retain him. I'm killing him then. Shenzhequan suddenly began to laugh. He said, you think I don't know where he is? We are already at this point and you still want to test me. You're the one who's testing me. Shi Hongxian crawled slowly towards Shenzhequan, finally revealing a savage expression. I understand you. Lanzo, the same trick is useless if you play it one time too many. You are accustomed to deceiving others with words. The more you pretend not to give a hoot about someone at this moment, the more important they are to you. You tricked me once that day in the courtyard, and now you still want to use the same trick on me. This Shi Hongxian may not be a person of outstanding intelligence, but I'm also not dumb to that extent. You don't know where he is. If you know, haha. Then you would have killed me after getting the money. So how did it go, Shenzhequan? Am I correct in saying that you still couldn't find him despite searching all over the Chu capital? Shen Zequan slightly tightened his grip on his handkerchief. Shi Hongxian smoothed aside his messy hair and said, as much as you may be eloquent, you've forgotten one thing, and that is, your meticulous and careful concealment of him is already enough to make me suspicious. Even if I believe you a little, I still have to be on guard against you. The thing to fear when having dealings with you is that you'd turn around and give stab at the back. Shen Zequan's eyes were emotionless as he looked at Shi Hongxian and said, then, what do you want? I want to get out of here. Shi Hongxian pointed at the door. I want to walk out of here unscathed. If I can't get out tonight, then Qi Huilian's corpse will be left on your doorstep tomorrow morning. Do you believe me? You can try me. Shi Dan, that traitorous bastard who betrayed his master for wealth, must have told you that all the men under my command are children of the domestic slaves in our clan. My safety concerns the safety of hundreds of people. Even if I can't get out, I still have plenty of ways at my disposal to kill off Qi Huilian. You're lying. Shen Zequan suddenly got up, and that dreary, ruthless emotion within him burst forth in this filthy room. He took a few steps back, taking advantage of the dimness to blur that face of his into some kind of behemoth lurking in the dark. This place is isolated from outsiders. How are you passing on the message to others? Tricking me even when death is near at hand, and you still tell me to try you. Shen Zequan said with a shadow of a smile in a frosty tone, sure then. Let's us try. I'll send you on your way out. If I could be on guard against you in advance, then why couldn't I take precautions against you beforehand? Shi Hongxian was drenched in cold sweat on seeing the situation deteriorate. He promptly raised his voice, I've long told the guards on watch that I'll head down once every half a month. If I fail to do so, then they should strike. You asked me the last time if I dare to believe your words. Shen Zequan, this time I'm asking you, do you dare to do the same? Shen Zequan did not make a sound. Shi Hongxian then slowed his tone, as if soothing him. Since you can buy over Shi Dan, then you must have already known that I am the only one who knows where Qi Huilian is. I've long understood that no one in this world can be trusted, so I have left countless escape routes in place for myself. Lanzhou, why must we both be on the losing end? It doesn't benefit either of us to infuriate each other. Aren't you making all these moves for the sake of gains? This deal is so unprofitable, no doubt you won't do it? Whatever it is that you're lacking, I have it all and I can give it to you. You only need to lend me this guts and wisdom of yours, and we can thrive and flourish in the Chu capital. Look at that Liege unhung. He's a good emperor, one that's hard to come by. He signifies an even faster path to success for men like you and me. This is a meteoric rise we're talking about, Lanzhou. Do you think second young master Xiao would be able to accept you if you kill me and offend the noble clans? How long can the Xiao clan's prestigious reputation of being infallible and undefeated in battles continue on for? Xiao Fangxiu is already old. If Xiao Jiming were to die too, then is second young master Xiao alone be any good? They are doomed to fail and fall. Shi Hongxian seemed to lament, and at the same time, to encourage. Lanzhou, you and I both have had a hard time being under the control of others, and now you still want to choose to submit to second young master Xiao and be at his beck and call? The only things in this world that can never abandon you are power and money. Join forces with me, and I'll give you money. You just need to help me keep this Shi clan's reputation intact, and we can bring our business deal up a level. When that time comes, it'd be hard for anyone jockeying for power to sway you and me from our positions. You previously wanted me to swallow up the other clans and proclaim myself king. So why are you now bound by constraints and limits yourself? Then, there's the 6 prefectures of Zhongbo. Don't you want to rebuild Zhongbo to avenge yourself for the humiliation you suffered in the past? Shen Wei's name can never be fully cleared, but you can use money to smash the gates to Zhongbo open. They are currently so poor that they even exchange children for food in their dire straits. You'll be like a deity who has descended from heaven. By that time, who would still dare to refuse to yield to you? Who would still dare to curse you? These are all what money can give you. Can the Empress Dowager do the same? Can second young Master Xiao do the same? Lanzhou, what are you still hesitating for? We can still continue to join forces and climb our way up to the top just like before. Shen Zequan was moved by his words. He no longer seemed to be brimming with murderous intent, and his tone had also softened somewhat as he spoke. If you had been this candid way earlier, we would not have to go as far as to face off each other in a confrontation, isn't it? You're right. It's only by joining forces that you and I can save ourselves a lot of troubles. I'm a merchant. To a businessman, profit comes first. If there isn't that much of a benefit to our collaboration, then why would I waste my breath like this? Shi Hongxuan's back itched. The part that had been wounded by the collapse the last time was scabbing over, and it itched so much these days that it hurt. He took a little breather, then continued, then there's no time to lose. Let me out now. Once I'm out, we can sit down for a proper discussion. Shi Hongxian had more than 10 martial arts experts from the martial fraternity in the Shi residence in Chu capital. He had spent a large sum of money to hire them to intimidate Shen Zequan the last time, and he had always kept them in his residence. In truth, he was already burning with anxiety, because he could not figure out what Shen Zequan was thinking. As such, he had also started to harbor the intent to kill, determined as he was to burn his bridges and fight to the end. No matter what, he had to get out of here first. Once he got out, only then would there be a variable he could exploit to turn things around. He wanted to kill Shen Zequan so much that he could not even wait for tomorrow, much less engage in diplomacy with him. Being able to deal with each other for a long time often meant that both parties were evenly matched, that they had the room to be able to sit down and trade barbs. Shi Hongxian felt that the present him and Shen Zequan had already lost this balance. It was as if he had fallen into a certain kind of pouch that Shen Zequan had bound to hold him in check as Shen Zequan climbed his way up the official ranks, thereby rendering him incapable of controlling and swaying the development of the situation like he could at the outset. Shi Hongxian still did not know where the problem lay, but based on his businessman's instinct, he had already discovered that his current plight, in which he was turning around in circles like a man under a spell, had everything to do with Shen Zequan. They had been working together in cahoots to this date, but other than killing Shi Guan to get his hands on the Shi clan's keys, the sweetness of every benefit Shi Hongxian has had a taste of in all that had happened afterwards had been fleeting. Only Shen Zequan had truly scaled to greater heights with power firmly in his hand. Shi Hongxian was sure that he had been made a fool of, but he still kept the look of sincerity on his face. It was as if he admired Shen Zequan to the point that he worshipped the ground Shen Zequan walked on, while at the same time, feared him to the point that he dared not take any action. Qiao Tianya pushed the door crack open and cast the light from the oil lamp inside. Shen Zequan's exposed wrists were clean. With his side bathed in the light from the lamp, he looked no different from the way he appeared in the daytime as he said politely, "After you, please." Shi Hongxian inwardly breathed a sigh of relief. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 82, Collecting Debt. The Shi residence was located in an inner street of Chu capital, slightly to the south. In comparison to the Pan's and Fei's residences, its total land area was significantly smaller. It was also near Prince Jin's manor, who lived during the reign of Emperor Guangcheng. The Shi had special permission, but the first few clan heads must have had much foresight and did not dare to build their mansion beyond what was permitted in the regulations. The interior architectural style of the residence was more like that in residences in Juexi, while the building structures such as the pavilions and terraces were all average and common. Shi Hongxian was on tenterhooks the entire journey back, but once he heard the sounds of horse hooves came to a stop, he knew he was home. Not daring to be careless, he bunched up the hem of his robe which had been soaked until it was wrinkled and hurried off from the carriage, where he saw Shen Zequin standing before him sizing up the Shi's residence. "It's an old mansion." Shi Hongxuan's tone was light and relaxed as he tried to keep up a normal behavior. "Even though we keep saying all these years that we want to renovate it, we never had the time. Come over in a few days when the weather gets warmer to take a look at the blueprint too." Yet, Shen Zequin only turned his gaze towards the house next door. Those green glazed tiles at that end were obviously standard specifications of a prince's residence. But the lush trees covering the vermilion walls only made it look eerie. Shi Hongxian followed his gaze over and said, "That's the Prince Jin's manor." Prince Jin suffered from tuberculosis and passed away from his illness a year before the former emperor's ascension to the throne. This residence then fell into disuse. It'll probably be bestowed upon someone as a reward in the future. It looks even more imposing than Prince Chu's manor. Shen Zequin did not shift his gaze away. "Of course." Shi Hongxian raised his thumb. The current emperor was not a child favored by Emperor Guangcheng. At that time, the crown prince, Prince Jin, and the former emperor were the most outstanding ones among the imperial heirs. A pity that the crown prince committed suicide at the Temple of Penitence. Prince Jin passed away of illness in his residence, and the former emperor lingered on his deathbed. He suddenly smiled. Otherwise, how could the current emperor have had the chance to sit on that throne? Prince Jin was also quite the pitiable one. He initially had a close father and son relationship with Emperor Guangcheng during Emperor Guangcheng's last few years, and Emperor Guangcheng often came here. But one of his subordinates in the manor used his influence to commit violence and beat a few villagers to death. Consequently, a complaint was lodged against him and Emperor Guangcheng punished him by putting him under house arrest in this residence. It was during that time that Prince Jin contracted tuberculosis. Emperor Guangcheng even made a special trip down for a visit. No one knew what they talked about, but eventually, they parted on bad terms. From then on, Prince Jin fell out of favor. That punishment to self-reflect behind closed doors dragged on, keeping him locked up until his death. Shen Zequin tucked this piece of information away in his mind, but he had no wish to discuss it with Shi Hongxian. When Shi Hongxian saw that he had no interest in continuing the topic, he raised his hand to wave away the servants who were swarming over to them. He said, "Although this residence of mine is not as big as the residences of other princes and aristocrats, the walk there is still considerably long. Lanzhou, my body is extremely weak, and I stink to high heavens. It'll be faster if we take a ride in the small sedan." The servants from the Shi's residence rushed to prepare the sedans. Shi Dan was originally the household steward, but he did not dare to show himself now, and it was instead Shi Hongxuan's eldest sister-in-law who came out to greet and welcome them. Shi Hongxian loved this woman, or at least that's what he said so himself. He had repeated countless times to Shen Zequin that he wanted to kill Shi Guan because of the hatred he bore Shi Guan for seizing his wife away by force. But then, his expression was indifferent as he watched that woman descend the stairs. He did not ask for her to help support him either, and simply dismissed her in a perfunctory manner as he took his seat in the small sedan. Shen Zequin lifted the curtain with a finger and saw it all clearly. Qiao Tianya, who was following outside the sedan, wanted to speak, but Shen Zequin gave a slight shake of his head to stop him. The small sedans entered the Shi's residence and made several turns before arriving at the courtyard where Shi Hongxian usually stayed. His courtyard was different from others. It was not overly decorated, and the long corridor was connected to an office with wide open doors and windows, as well as a row of brightly lit lanterns. The sound of abacus within, mingled with various local accents, proved to be particularly noisy. There was a tea table erected under a mat awning on the open ground before the front hall, and seated and standing underneath the awning were the various shopkeepers and bookkeepers who had come from all over Great Zhou. At the sight of Shi Hongxian, this assorted group of people all stood up and crowded around him. Those people were here to report expenses, prepare stocks, demand payments, and send greetings. All mobbed him around, creating a din. Shi Hongxian first bowed to the crowd in a greeting and spoke, "This humble one has only just returned. Look, with how stinky I smell, I won't be able to do any work. There's no need for any of you to be anxious. Wait here with peace of mind and take turns to go into the office on that end, one at a time. As for me, I had merely headed out for these past few days for some fun. It's nothing of importance. Our business will naturally continue as usual. Oh, as for the shopkeepers here to demand payment, there's no need for you to fret as well. When has the Shi clan ever missed our deadlines and defaulted on our debts? As long as you have the memorandum with you, I will pay back all substantiated claims in full." Shi Hongxian hurriedly held Shen Zequan firmly as he pushed aside the crowd and called for the attendants to hurry over and serve tea and attend to them. He cupped his hands to those people the entire way before he managed to lead Shen Zequan to a relatively quiet hall at the back. "Lanzhou, take a seat first. I'll go wash up a little and have a change of clothes before I return." Shi Hongxian shook his dirty robe and instructed the servants to prepare the food and wine. Shen Zequan took his seat and drank the tea. By the time the wine and the food to go with wine were served, Shi Hongxian had returned, too. He was dressed in a brand new dark reddish-brown silk robe. He took his seat and personally poured wine for Shen Zequan. "Sorry to have kept you waiting." Shi Hongxian touched the flesh between his neck and let out a cheeky chuckle. "Home is still where I feel most comfortable. That prison cell is so awfully damp. I feel so refreshed all over now that I'm done washing up. Here, Lanzhou, drink up. You really did not show mercy this time. Few more days locked up in there, and I'll be dead meat for sure." "It won't go as far as that," Shen Zequan said with a smile, "that was just to intimidate you. I won't deal you such a vicious blow for the sake of our friendship. You really caused me so much grief." Shi Hongxian groused with a bitter smile. "The state of my back looked to be in a frightfully bad state. I'll still have to call for a physician over to take a look at it later. Say, wouldn't it do for you to just tell me outright if you lack that 4 million? You just had to go around in such a big circle." Both men chatted merrily over wine, showing no signs of that mutual hostility they had on an hour earlier when they had been at daggers drawn with each other. The wine was excellent, as were the dishes. It was only when Shi Hongxian was almost done eating that he wiped his mouth with a hand towel and spread his arms apart to sprawl back on the chair. He said, "It's not like I'm unwilling to give you the keys that you want. But Lanzhou, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If I return Qi Huilian to you, then I'd have nothing to fall back on, so I can't hand the keys over to you and give him up on top of it." Shen Zequan, who did not eat much, set down his chopsticks and said, "I've done you a disservice in this matter, too. But second young master, there are some matters which I didn't make up myself. Go make some inquiries out there, and you'll know that Wei Huigu truly doesn't harbor good intentions and has no wish to help you out of your predicament at all. I know they all have their own ulterior motives." Shi Hongxian wiped away the fine beads of sweat on him. "But since you were able to get me out of prison to another place, it means that the imperial court didn't hand down that much of a punishment on me. This was His Majesty's idea, right? His Majesty went to great effort to protect you, so the prison can't overstep their authority to investigate you. Now that you have been temporarily suspended from your post and have returned home, you won't be able to carry out your duties in the Bureau of Evaluations." Shen Zequan changed the topic. "I've already sent you back home. The issue of the keys can be renegotiated, but I want to see Qi Huilian now." Shi Hongxian threw aside the hand towel and smiled as he rubbed his stomach. He said, "As for the keys, we have to discuss and come to an understanding now. Lanzhou, you've never conducted a business deal before, so you aren't aware of the ins and outs of it. It's not the slightest bit simpler than being an official. Holding those keys will allow you to transfer out the silvers, but those are deadweight silvers. If you take them out, you will sooner or later come to spend it all clean. So why not put it inside and let me continue to take care of the business? Isn't it wonderful to let your money beget more money for you? However much you need in the future, all you have to do is to just give me a number. He sat tight in his chair. The earlier din had already disappeared without them realizing it. The windows and doors in his hall were all wide open, and the weeping willows outside shrouded in the color of ink looked like a row of hanged ghosts cramming at the windows looking in. The endless night was still and quiet, and the candle flame blazed a little. Those servants that had been waiting upon them all seemed to have vanished. It was as if both of them were the only ones left. Shenzhequan slowly leaned back in his chair and said, "How the situation has changed. After stepping out of that prison cell, the second young master has indeed toughened up. I'm satiated after having had my fill of food and wine, and I'm not hurting anymore." Shi Hongxian looked at Shenzhequan and pointed to his own head, "And, I'm still sober. I'm telling you, it's not a choice between Qi Huilian and the keys. Your only option is to take Qi Huilian away. As long as you give the nod, I will give him to you immediately." Shenzhequan took his time. The little bamboo fan slid out from his sleeve pocket and he grasped it for a moment to weigh it up. He said, "That's not what we discussed earlier." Shi Hongxian answered in a low, muffled voice, "The world of business is ever changing at a rapid pace. Earlier, you held me by the balls and now, I'm the one who has you by the balls. The issues under discussion naturally have to change following this shift. What if I insist on both?" Shenzhequan smiled. "Then it will all come to naught." Shi Hongxian patted his belly. "Let me offer you a piece of advice, Lanzhou. Don't be such a greedy son of a bitch. As the saying goes, be content with your lot. You have already taken away 4 million. I won't pursue it further. This is already enough for a gesture of goodwill, right? Before the money has been delivered into my hands, it does not count as having taken it." Shenzhequan did not divulge to him the part where these 4 million taels would be split into 2 portions to be transported through the northeast supply route. Instead, he said, "It's not an easy journey to make either. You know it better than I do. I have the channels for escorting the goods. No matter how competent Zhang Qingshan is, he can't keep an eye down there all the time." Shi Hongxian had already gained the upper hand. "I can think of ways to get the money to you. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Lanzhou, I'm willing to give you this 4 million. But you have to tell me the truth. Are the 3 incidents of collapse, flooding, and epidemic all you're doing?" "Of course not," Shenzhequan said. "I've long told you the honest truth. For this matter, you have to ask Shueziaozuo. I can see you keeping a tight grip over these keys, so I won't insist on it. As you've said, we cannot do without the other if we want to join forces. Now, can you give me Qi Huilian already?" Shi Hongxian pushed his chair aside to get up and say, "I've long gotten someone to go get him. You have been waiting for so many days, there's no need to fret over waiting a little longer now." With his rotund potbelly, he took some steps to aid digestion. Looking as if he was considering something, he eventually walked his way to the door and strode a step out, where he shouted, "Where's the man?" The servant outside whispered something in reply. Not hearing it clearly, Shi Hongxian continued down the stairs. He took a few more steps as he descended. The courtyard was dead silent. He suddenly jerked around and bellowed, "Shut the doors." All at once, the wide-opened doors of the hall were shut tight, and the windows were secured with slabs of planks amidst the sounds of thud. In the blink of an eye, the hall was completely sealed. Amidst the rustle of the night wind, which sent the grim willows swaying, several figures gradually materialized out of the night to lay siege to the hall. Shi Hongxian gritted his teeth in hatred as he ripped off his mask and said, "Shenzhequan, you still want back Qi Huilian? How insatiably greedy of you, just like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. For treating me like a fool to push around, I shall take your life tonight. He retreated a few more steps back. Drag over that double-crossing Shidan, who bites the hand that feeds him. Shidan had already been securely bound up by the others. On seeing him, Shi Hongxian first gave him a kick to the face and sent him toppling over to the ground before he stomped violently on him. The audacity of you to sell your master out for money. Despicable bastard, rotten piece of shit. You forgot that I have your parents in my hands. I shall have your whole family follow him to the grave tonight. His eyes were already blazing with hatred as he spoke. Drag the eldest mistress up here too. Does she really think I don't know she's addicted to hooking up with this lowlife behind my back? Shidan, with that pea-sized gut of yours, you would have never dared to betray me. But lust is like a blade hanging above your head. Who can you blame if you let someone get an evidence against you and ended up involved in the whole sordid affair of betraying your master for money? You scum! Shidan was kicked until he rolled all over the ground and howled in pain, while that eldest mistress, whose legs had turned to jelly, was flung before Shi Hongxian, where she wailed and pleaded ceaselessly. Shi Hongxian let her hug his thigh as he looked at her and said grimly, "Do you know he wanted to harm me? You know, and you still want to follow him. Were you already planning how to make your escape to somewhere far away with him? I've never treated anyone better in this life than I treated you. I put in 100% of my love and handed over 80% of my life. And this is how you treat me?" With a pair of red eyes, Shi Hongxian hauled up the eldest mistress. "Shi Guan snatched you away, and I snatched you back. I give you the same honor and prestige you have always enjoyed, and give you gold and jade so you never lacked for nothing. I hold you in both hands like my most precious treasure. You, oh, you." Shi Hongxian was so consumed by hatred that his heart was dripping blood. "Leave with him. I'll send you both on your way tonight." Shi Hongxian shoved her down coldly and spat, then said with a fiendish smile, "Draw your blades. Mince up these heartless and ungrateful creatures, and we can save on the dishes to go with the wine tonight. This second master has the money." He fished out large quantities of gold and silver ingots from his bosom and sleeves and dropped them to the ground, where they rolled with a clatter. Amidst the sound of money colliding against each other, Shi Hongxian staggered a few steps and burst out laughing with tears streaming down his face until his laughs gradually gave way to sobs. All beings in this world are driven by benefits. I have money. So why bemoan the lack of someone true to me? For money, one can kill their closest kin, their flesh and blood, their beloved. Having thrown away all his gold and silver, Shi Hongxian raised both of his arms high and shouted himself hoarse under the glint of cold steel, "Do it! I'm here to collect my debt." The crowd promptly drew their blades, and snow-white light flashed. End chapter.